to the podcast, The Coaches Next Door. I welcome you, and as you can probably already see and hear, we have different formats for this podcast. So we have the format of interviews, we have the format of conversations, we have the format of a live podcast, and we have some surprises for you. So new ways of transmitting and passing you knowledge, experiences, and also great people showing you and presenting you new and amazing people that are doing amazing things will come in September. But for now, I want to introduce you Randall, someone that I really admire by the determination, the strong opinion, and that's exactly why Randall went through a process of discovering what was the best way for him to support entrepreneurs, people with businesses that are already implemented, but they want to improve. So he went through a process of finding out what is the best way. How can I put my talents at service? Meet Randall and what he's doing right now to support more and more people to reach success. Stay with us. So, good morning.
Good morning.
And like any good entrepreneurs, we are starting our Monday. So it's not early anymore, but it's still morning Monday. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I really like to have nice conversations on Monday morning.
Good way to start the week, yes.
Exactly, right? I think it's a great way to boost the week, and sometimes getting ideas and getting a fresh start for the week. So, Randall, we met. I don't know anymore when we met, to be honest. I'm so bad with time. Do you know?
I think it would have been 2017, 2018, maybe.
Okay.
Something around when I went and did the coaching for professionals certification with you guys. Yeah.
Yes. So that was the moment that we met, 2017, 2018. Not a big difference. And it's interesting because since then, even if it's not like a long time, a lot changed for you.
Correct.
A lot of things happened, right? Since that moment until today. Do you want to give us a little bit on that, let's say, timeline of what happened and even maybe before, because of course you had also a life before you did the coaching certification. So if you can give us a little bit of an idea what already happened to you until today, basically.
Yes. So I guess if I was going to talk about what, let's say, maybe brought me to that coaching certification, it's I used to live in Australia, and when I was in Australia, let's say I developed my career in a company from, you could say, almost an apprentice level all the way to a senior manager. So everyone knew me, the environment was comfortable, I could be who I was. I was trusted, so I wasn't very much challenged, which it was quite nice. It was comfortable, right? Like, whatever I said as the boss, it would happen. People would challenge me enough, but in general, my word was my word, and that's it. Then I decided to move to Europe, which just that was a big change. I needed to reinvent myself, to a certain level, reinvent my career, change a little bit what I was doing. I was a bit more technical before. I moved more into operations in IT. And then my word didn't really mean anything in the new workplace, right? I was this new guy. I still needed to build a reputation again. So I did that for a few years, but that also, by doing that, it allowed me to look at myself in different ways. And that's when I thought about coaching, right? After doing that for a few years, I realized that I needed to work a little bit more in the human part of the work. I was maybe a little bit too mathematical, too, ones and zeros.
Yeah.
this is right, this is wrong, we got to do it the
Yeah.
right way. And in some way I still think that way, but I realize that there is a different dimension of the human experience. And that's what I realized. Maybe I couldn't have said it this way back in the day when
Yeah.
I thought about the coaching,
Yeah.
but I just started looking into, okay, how do I find a way to handle me and my people better?
Yeah.
And that's how I found you guys.
Yeah. And then you did the coaching certification. I remember well, because you came and you honestly didn't had at the same time you didn't had, let's say, a clear idea what that was or what that will mean for you, but at the same time you were curious enough to ask a lot of questions and challenge in a good way. What I call a positive challenge is that, okay, how can I use this and how can I put this in practice? But then at that time you were, let's say, still working for an organization, right?
Yes, correct. So yeah, so at that moment I would say I've always been an open-minded person with an
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I had opinions, I had expectations, but I also had an open mind into, okay, I don't really, I'm humble enough to know I don't really know this world.
Yeah.
I had these predisposed opinions, which again, not what I would say, maybe not all of them, but I would say probably about 90% of it was not really what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, from that, so again, the coaching allowed me to really, I wouldn't say drastically change who I was, but just fine tune my approach to dealing with my staff.
Yeah.
But maybe in some sort of way, it allowed me to also pay attention deeper into the human level.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, yeah, maybe I'll say at this point it was a good thing, but at that moment it also made me start doubting a lot the whole corporate lifestyle, the whole um the fact that I was now trying to connect with people more. It realized that when corporate decisions which weren't really about people
Yeah.
um I started having to implement those without really having much of an opinion. I expected at some point I'm going to get to a certain level, and then once
Yeah.
I'm at that level, my opinion is going to mean something to the company. I got up to a director level, like a global director, and then I realized it didn't really mean anything. Like there was
Yeah.
really no difference between me and an analyst. I just made
Yeah.
more money and I had a title, so I could tell some people what to do. But to the higher up people, um, just had to do what I was told,
Yeah.
and that that yeah, that became
Yeah.
something that I was like, you know what? I don't care how much you pay me. I
Yeah.
don't care about how safe this is.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think I don't know what you think about this, but when I work, yeah, I also work in a corporate world. I still work, but now not as an employee, right? I think that is the huge difference. But I remember that I reached the point of that I also thought that, oh, okay, now I can do things my way. Was a political game, right? So instead, I realized that I had more, let's say, power when I was less on that level, because I was doing it in a daily basis. And when I reached to the point of, oh, okay, now we are in a board meeting and we are talking about what is going to happen in the next 5 years. Um, the level lower, because I could not do things in a daily basis as I wanted, because I needed to correspond to a certain political game that sometimes to be honest, I didn't even get what was going on, and that makes things a little bit more complicated, I think, in the sense of feeling alignment between you and what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was the main thing to me. When I got to a certain level, it was a little bit like Game of Thrones. Like
Yeah,
it's not about opinions. It's about, are you on the side of the person that you need to be on the side of to make
yeah,
sure that they like you.
yeah,
And if I was called into a meeting and someone asked my opinion, I would tell the truth. My
yeah,
opinion. This is what I see, and this is the data that I base it on. Right? Like, quite to me, that's logical. Right? That's what you want from people. But if that happens to be against the opinion of someone that has an influence over you, now you have a problem.
Yeah.
And to me, it almost, how can I say, it wasn't about, oh, I think I'm ready to do something else.
Yeah.
To me, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It really wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm ready to do something else. Like it's the right moment. Like not at all. If I was honest, if I could say that in many ways it wasn't the right moment. In many ways, I could have done it a lot better.
Yeah.
In many ways, I could have, organized it a bit better. But because of, I don't know if it was fear or just a bit of a procrastination in my decision making, or wanting to ignore the truth and just kind of distract myself with going on trips and doing nice things and all those. I just got to one day and I was like, I really can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I only reinvented myself a few times
Yeah.
until the point that I'm now, trying to discover what it was. But at the same time, I was, let's say, you could say, a bit cocky or confident. I thought I've always done well. I reinvented myself a few times. I've moved to many different countries. I've always done well. I'll figure it out, right? It's gonna be okay.
The thing is that until you do it, you will never know, right? Even I believe when and I think when people say, oh no, I plan it and I got this and that, I go like, oh, okay, but you still don't know how this is going to end up, right? You still don't know what is going to happen. And I think until the moment you do it, you really take that step that sometimes is a little bit more, let's say, planned, or if it's like a more emotional booster, you still don't know what is going to happen, right? You still don't know what could be the possible next step in that way. And I think that a lot of times people wait too long, right? Until you get to the point that one day in the morning you go like, okay, done. Like not one more second I can do this is really, sometimes even people get sick.
Yeah, well, I was a little, I hate to use the word burnout because I've met people in different levels, but I had the moment in which I didn't really want to get out of bed. I was like, my job was easy. It was easy for me. And I was like, I do not want to get in a phone call, even if it's just listening and getting paid a lot of money to sit and do nothing. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So to me, that's just, it is a luxury problem, right? Like, when your life is at a level that is everything's going well, I guess see it that way. Definitely it's a luxury problem, but it is also a problem, right? Many people are getting to this point. But one thing that I realized, and that's one of the let's say the customers that I'm helping with now, is I don't think that you actually have to wait to that moment. Like we have this idea in society that we got to figure everything alone. I actually had a call with a prospect, someone that a potential client, and she actually said this to me. She's like, I think I can still kind of figure it out, and maybe gonna wait until I'm really I'm really stuck.
Yeah.
And I said, I thought exactly the same thing back in the day. But I would say that if I was going to go back and what was a mistake that I made is waiting for that moment, because desperation is good to promote action, but it's bad for creativity, because you're not thinking clearly. You're just trying to find a way to survive, and that's not the best way.
Yeah, I remember, when coaching was still not a trend, I had a coach in the company that I was. I had a coach at that time. And we met, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. So let's say almost like 10 years after I left the company. One day he was coming to Amsterdam, and he texted me and said, hey, I'm going to be in Amsterdam. So, oh, let's meet, So we went for a coffee. And so this was like 15 years later. And he said to me, I was so happy when I found out that you decided to quit. And because he said to me, if you will not decide at that moment, I will be the one telling you, please go out.
Mhm.
You are like, in a point that is so fragile that easily you could, I could go in a very dark place. So, and I think sometimes you don't have that person.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't have that person saying to you, hey, what are you doing? You are stretching the rope to a moment that could be after that dangerous. And just like you said, it says sometimes people just wait because most part of us wants to know. We want to know what is going to happen. We want to gain certainty in a place that is totally uncertain, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. True.
we are looking for that moment that is, okay, this is what is going to happen. This is what I'm going to do, and like.
And we think we have to do it alone. I think to me
Yeah,
that's the biggest, like, society, one of the biggest lies that modern culture have told us is that we have to, like, this hyper independence, we have to do everything alone. And the
yeah,
fact is the only reason why civilization is at the moment that it is because people do things together. People always think about Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. Those guys didn't do everything together. Far from. They just happen to be really a good face, right?
yeah,
Everything needs a good face. Every sports team needs a good face, but there is a team playing the sport,
yeah,
right? If
yeah,
they put that person together doing it, they would lose because they
yeah,
can't do it alone, right?
yeah. But I think, I totally agree. And I'm totally, I think we are in a moment in history of civilization that we run in a huge risk. We are going for a huge risk. That is people, I don't believe that people are independent. I believe people don't know how to connect anymore. So
Yeah.
they think, because yeah, like you said, we have a lot of marketing around that they need to find things by themselves. But about everything, it's not like people think that, oh, for instance, in a relationship, whatever the relationship is, oh, I'm going to deal with myself first and then I'm going for the relationship. That doesn't work, because you cannot learn how to be alone and then improving your relationships. But simple things like, for instance, I don't know what because you also support entrepreneurs and you are, yeah, helping people, let's say, going from this change from becoming also an entrepreneur. But I also think that sometimes the simple things like, if I imagine 10 hours to do something that someone can do for me in 3, I'm losing money,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So, and sometimes people don't think about this, like, okay, of course it's an investment, but even that, people think, oh, if I become now an entrepreneur, I need to do this by myself. I need to do everything by myself. I say, yes, you're going to lose a lot of time and you're going to lose a lot of money as well. It's okay that we want to know how to do it and understand a little bit what is going on, but doesn't mean that we need to do everything by ourselves, right? And not anymore on these days. You can basically hire everything and not spend a lot of money. But I think this idea that if it's not done by me, at least in the beginning, people also feel like that is also the idea that I need to control. I need to know what is going on. I need to know how to do everything. And I go like, it's okay that you get a little bit of the map, okay, how to do this and then an idea what is going on, but doesn't mean that you need to do everything by yourself, right?
It is ultimately about realizing that, if you're going to start your own business, it is your business. Whoever
Yeah.
works or supports you is going to be in line with what you want to do, right? Like, that's one of the things that I always tell people that I work with is, I will give you a framework. We will go through a process, but the actual, like, the meat and the bone is yours, right? I
Yeah,
might give you the bone to put it against, but the meat is yours, right? The
yeah,
creativity, what things are going to end up being is really
yeah,
up to. I'm going to give you a vehicle, but how you pack it is up to you.
yeah,
Um, But I think what happens is the reason why also people focus a lot into doing things alone is because of that desperation moment. Again, people wait too long, they get desperate, and then they start seeing marketing on Instagram or Facebook,
Yeah.
and they start buying tools, and they start, they again,
Pragmatic
they're
way.
not thinking clearly, so
Yeah.
they start spending all this money on all this useless stuff that's actually not going to give them any results. Instead of, again, when they start feeling that's something, I did that. I wasted money on things that were a complete waste of money because
Yeah.
I thought, oh, maybe that's what I need because someone
Yeah.
online is reaching me in a moment in which I am stressed and I'm like, what do I do? Oh, that sounds like a solution. Let's buy that. And again, without thinking,
Yeah.
truly, is this going to give me what I'm looking for? If I would have done it, and that's what I advise people now, if I would have done it in the moment that, hey, I have a job, but I feel like I should be doing something else. Let me investigate that. Let me try to find mentoring into again, a mix. Coaching can be quite valuable for that. All, but also mentoring. Who's going through it? I think that the idea of, oh, but I got to figure out my own way. Well, yeah, that's not true. Like, we don't figure out anything our own way. We kind of do, but when you get on a plane to go to a different country, you're not trying to figure out your own way. No, there is a
Yeah.
route,
Exactly.
right? Because
And
you know that's going to get you there safe.
but also I think sometimes, for example, I have some friends, and that for me is very valid, and precious, because I have friends that they also have their own business, but it's in a different field than mine. Okay, and still I sometimes like, to pick up their brains and saying, hey, I have this idea. Even if they don't do what I do, they of course they understand, but they don't have the, the people side. But then I go to them and I said, hey, how you will be doing this? Because their mind is different than mine, right? It's a little bit like, for instance, you are a little bit more logic and numbers oriented. Imagine I'm a philosopher, so I can go anywhere. For instance, sharing an idea with you and seeing your point of view, because you are not inside of the business, is almost like hearing my own client, right? Is hearing someone else and a different mindset, and that can give me a lot of valid and very relevant feedback as well. I don't know, the way that I talk about a product, for instance, the way that I want to present something. But I believe that sometimes we forget this easy, let's say, resources.
Yeah, true. But I gotta say, I do. That's good, but I do think that it depends on the friends that you have. Because let's
Yeah,
be honest,
yeah,
right? I
okay.
think that sometimes, depending on who you are,
Yeah,
uh, having those conversations with friends can be difficult because sometimes people could be negative or they just don't see your point of view and they have strong opinions because you're their friend. They feel that they can be really candid about it, and
yeah.
that can sometimes stop you, right? So that's why sometimes talking to a
Okay.
disconnected third party, like a professional, an expert, if the expert says to you, hey, I don't think that's a good idea because of these reasons, so that's likely going to be less emotionally taxing than going to
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
that is
yeah.
a really good friend. You have all these big dreams, and then you go to this good friend, and your good friend shuts them down.
Yeah, um,
yeah.
yeah, I understand, but I always say, take care of your peer group.
Yeah, yeah,
So
of course.
find the right people. But for instance, I have a friend of mine. I call him the dream destroyer, and he does that. It's like I go and I have an idea, and he really puts my feet on ground, you know
Mhm.
and I sometimes really, I must say, always, if I don't feel like it, I don't share my idea with him, right? So I like that because he brings me what could be the, let's say, the challenge. He brings me the, I don't believe in that, and that makes me
Mhm.
sometimes to say, oh, okay, what can I say to you for you to start buying that? And
Yeah.
so it's a great exercise sometimes, but of course, choose your peer group well. Okay, it's
No, it
not.
depends. It depends where you are. Depends where you are, because again, you're
Yeah,
professional. Like, you have years. Your ideas are not. But especially when you're starting as an entrepreneur and you haven't taken the moment to figure out what are you really about, what do you really want to do. You're just, let's say, I need to do something else, because if you get to that desperation, I need to do something else, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. At that moment, you are not even sure. So if you're in a moment that you're unsure and then you go to someone that is going to be critical, then it can make you feel like you're drowning quite quickly. Like, oh, maybe I should just go back and get a job in a different company, because that's all I can do. And I talk to my friends, and I know maybe I just don't know what I'm doing. So I think that having someone that challenges you, like I challenge people quite a bit, but I think that looking for someone to challenge you have to be in a moment that you truly believe into what you're doing. So you can deal with those objections in a way that it actually makes you grow and it doesn't deflate your idea.
Yeah. So do you see a difference now that you are talking about that? Do you see a difference, or better, I'm going to say yes, you see a difference. What is the biggest difference between someone that starting, like for instance, okay, is out of the corporate or at least wants to, and someone that is more mature already in business, and what is the biggest difference?
It depends on the person, right? Like, let's say the one that is living corporate, sometimes first, if you're already still in corporate and you're thinking of doing something else, you might have an hyperinflated ego, in the sense of, because you are successful in that environment, you think you're great, and you might be really good at that. But when you jump into entrepreneurship, it's a whole different game. Like I had to learn so much. It really humbled me in many ways, because I thought that I was kind of on top of my own world, and then I jumped into a different pool, and it's like, oh, I can't swim here so well. Right. So that sometimes it can be quite and it's a bit of an awakening into, but it's also nice. Like if you, it's a reinvention. You're really reinventing yourself. And it also to me, it allowed me to see back into my job really did a lot of things for me, a lot of things that I didn't appreciate. Right. So I part of me is like, oh, there were many things that I used to complain about, and they were actually helping me in a lot of ways. And people that haven't done that move or don't know those two worlds can really see it, right? So, but again, someone when they have a job, that's a little bit of what happens. Someone that is already an entrepreneur and they're doing okay in their business, that sometimes that can also be the ego thing. Like, I'm doing okay. I know what I'm doing. So I think in both sides, it's always a bit of that are you open-minded enough to look for a potential better way? And do you understand really what your goals and targets are? Because again, if let's say you're an entrepreneur, you're making good money, but you're working 80 hours a week. Is that what you want? But many people don't figure out what is it that I'm looking for. Because again, they live corporate maybe, or they start their own business, and at the beginning they just need to make money because they're stressed, right? I need to make a living. They figure out a way that makes them money, but it takes them too much time. If the only thing based on their desperation that they're paying attention to is I need to make money, they're going to get stuck into that cycle. And then that cycle, they stay stuck in there because a little bit of fear, because, oh, if I change that, I don't make money, and then I'm in trouble. Right? So I think that if at the beginning, when you're before you actually become an entrepreneur, or even while you're being an entrepreneur, if you take a moment to take a step back and figure out, okay, what am I about? Like a bit of a personal, it doesn't have to be deep or take a long time, but some kind of personal research into what are my values, what's my purpose, what do I like, what are my passions, what matters to me. Do I really just care about money and having 2 weeks off every year to spend the money there? Or do I want to have abundance on time, money, time with my family? Like, what is that perfect combination? How do I deliver the most amount of value with what I have so I can charge more while investing less time, right? So all those kind of questions, all that almost mathematical formula that you can actually get an answer for, and then you can structurize your business in a way which is going to give you more or less what you're looking for. Again, like anything, some days, even if you have the perfect business model, you're going to do an 80-hour week because something happened. But as long as you have as long as that is not the default, right? As long as most of the time everything is going well, and once in a while, boom, something happened, I go to work really hard for a couple of weeks. Okay, that's fine. It's
fine. And I think also that idea, because if you ask me, I became an entrepreneur in 2010, and I'm for sure not the same type of entrepreneur that I was then, right? But also I realized that what happened to me, I don't know if that happened to you, but what happened to me when I quit my job, the next day I felt really dumb because I was working in a corporate, I was working in fashion. So it's very fast, it's an industry that is very fast. But I was in a how do you say, in a bubble. I was in a bubble. And I felt like when I was just, I took some time, like I took like 2 months. I thought that I'm going to be 6 months for myself, and like, okay, I took like 1 month, and then I was already doing something. But I remember that I went out, without anything, no schedule, nothing, just going out for a coffee. And I was sitting and I was like, oh my God, this is a totally different life. Like, I don't know this life because I was always traveling. I was always in airplanes and airports and, in hotels. I remember even that I was so addicted that after maybe 1 month or some weeks, I booked an hotel like half an hour city away from my own city, just because I was like, okay, this is, I don't know how to deal with this on being in the house all this time. So I was so addicted. And at the same time, I felt really dumb because I realized that, and even if I had a very strong social life, like you can imagine in fashion, right? You go everywhere and you meet everyone, but still was the people from the bubble. So when I went out, I like, oh my God, it's a totally new world here. And just the time to find out what that world was, the things that I was not even aware that were happening, but also how can I use that as an opportunity for myself. Only that time was for me. If I, like you said, if I will go back, I think will be very different if I had someone like a mentor or someone saying, hey, this is maybe what you can look at, or because I felt like a little bit overwhelmed at that time.
Yeah, as I said, it's you are really reinventing yourself, and you don't realize how connected your identity is to what you do. Like we all think, no, me, like it's on my work. No, it's not true. You are so connected. Your identity is connected to it. Even me, it took me a while to, when people are asking me, what do you do for a living, to actually say what I do for a living now. Because a part of me is like, oh, I can't say I'm a business coach and mentor until I am super successful, because then it just looks like I'm trying to be something that I'm not. So a part of me, even for a long time, I was like, oh yeah, but I used to be a director in this and that. Like I felt like I needed to add that to my introduction for like a personal worth thing, which is quite silly now. But it was just such a strong connection between what I did for so many years. For so many years, I was this person, and it's not that easy to just be another person, because you still are who you are. But your work, again, sometimes we say, oh, it's just my job, it's not what I do. We work most of the time. When we look at the numbers, if you go mathematical, if you look at how much time in your life you're working most of your life.
And you are also doing, let's say you are, for instance, when I was working in that company, I was, let's say, paying attention to things in me. I'm still the same person, but I was maybe behaving in a way that I don't do today. You know what I mean? I was paying attention to things that now I go like, I don't, it's not that I change as a person, but because you are in an environment, you start doing other things, and you become almost like you can be, I will say, you can be whatever you want. So you can be a little bit more fashionable, or you can be a little bit more natural, or you can be, yeah, that is a choice. So it's almost like it's not that you become a different person, but you are in a certain context. So in that context, of course, you want to belong, you want to, be accepted. So you will be doing things that if you are in a different context, then becomes totally irrelevant. Like, oh, doesn't matter, it's not what I want to be. So let me ask you one thing. In your work, when someone comes to you and says, okay, I think I'm done with the job that I have right now, what is the first thing that you do?
Well, I explained them. Well, first of all, I try to get to understand them a little bit better. Like, why are they feeling that way? Is it, because at the end of the day, of course, I want a customer, but I also choose my customers. I'm not gonna get someone that is not actually sure, right? And I will question them. How long have you been doing this for? Where do you see yourself in 3, 5, 10 years? Like all those, let's say, cliche questions, but which most people can't actually answer in a meaningful way, by the way. But I want to get to know them as much as I can. And then I give them a little bit of, I also tell them, listen, this is what you might be getting yourself into. This is really, I want to give them a reality check.
Yeah.
And then I explain to them, basically, okay, here's how I do it. Here's what it's like to work with me. Here are the steps that I follow. Because what I did, I kind of reutilize my skill set from all my years of work, which was about building processes. So then I build a process to help people transition and develop a profitable, successful business.
Yeah.
So I explained to them my workflow, my process. Here's how we work together. Here are the steps. Here are the things that people are going to struggle with. Here's how long it could take you between this long and this long, right? I try to make it as concise. To me, it's about practical, right? I think that in the world of kind of coaching and mentoring, there's a lot of talking, which is valuable, right? Like sometimes, depending on where you are, there's moments that we've worked together and I just needed to talk and I just needed to, because I didn't really know anything. So you need to kind of let your brain, you need those connections to start sparking. But that's why I ask those questions, because to me, I'm more about, okay, let me get you practically somewhere. Because I know that that's the hardest part. The hardest part from I start to I'm actually making money is quite difficult, especially because people, when they quit their jobs and when they start doing something as an entrepreneur, instead of figuring out what do I want to do, they ask themselves, or at least that's what I did, what can I do that the people are going to pay me for?
Yeah.
Right? That's the wrong angle. It's like, and I started doing things at the beginning that people were paying me for. And it's fine. I was making money. It was good. But I wasn't really enjoying it. I wasn't like, I want to get out of, I was almost putting myself in the same position that I was before. I'm doing something that gives me money, but it doesn't actually kind of fuel my soul in some sort of way. So because I had to learn through the process and it wasn't so easy, I tried to hyper speed that period for people and start from step number one, which is the step number one of the program that I offer is mindset. Let's figure out where you are in your head and let's align those things and let's make sure that you have alignment and I understand you. So as I guide you through the rest of the steps, I can also keep you accountable. I'm like, but we said that this is the plan, because fear comes out, right? Sometimes fear and doubt and sometimes you wake up and you're like, what's funny is like the first time the payday comes across and no one pays you. Right? And you're like, oh my God, like I'm used to for so many years. Yeah, for so many years I've been getting money.
Let me interrupt you there, because with me, already happened some years ago. I don't do a lot of coaching in that sense anymore with entrepreneurs. Sometimes I do, but it's most part of times now is business that is already running. But I remember one time was a person that came to me and he came with the idea, oh, maybe I need to have a business for myself. And when we checked, himself, his beliefs, his, let me put it this way, his mindset, but also what was him as a person and what he wanted to be, we got to the point that he said, it's not for you. And entrepreneurship is not for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you like that someone, let's say you have the ideas, but you like to do that with more people. You like to do that as a project. So it was much more like, for instance, an intern, like someone that comes and does a project with a team in a corporate, that being an entrepreneur with their own product. Still an entrepreneur in the sense that you are interim, but it's not the same thing, right? Looking for a project is not the same thing that you building your own product or your own project. So that ever happened to you as well? Like you get someone and said, I don't think that having your own product, for instance, being an entrepreneur is for you.
I would say no, but there's a reason for that. And the reason is because I have a very robust prospecting process.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically,
Because
I don't just take a call. I just don't take a call with anyone. Right. Like,
yeah.
to me, it's like, I will, normally I talk to people through Instagram or through other methods. And then we have a little bit of a online conversation free to figure out whether, because I don't want to waste anyone's time. I'm protected of my time, right? To me, abundance is money and time. I want to have time. So, and I'm not, an abundance, it means that I know that I'm going to have customers. So I'm not hyper stressed that I go to get every conversation that I can get, right? I get the conversations that I know that are likely to produce fruits. So
because it's different when, for instance, when someone comes to me, because I'm not, so it comes for a coaching process that is like, okay, I don't know what I want. So it's more spectrum. But yeah, so, but let's say you don't engage with that because you go to this pre-conversation, but sometimes you feel it, like that's why you don't end that conversation, right? Some people are afraid to be entrepreneurs.
No, and what I've had people that they say all the right things in the prospecting area, and then once you actually meet the person, listen, I'm a believer that everyone that truly wants to do anything within reason, right? They can't really do it, right? Again, I'm not going to say if you are, if you are, I don't know, 160 and you want to be an NBA player, yeah, it's physics, right? Like, unlikely. But hey, I think there's been one person that was super short in the NBA. So it is, again, everything is within the bounds of possibility. But again, before I actually offer them the option to work with me, like I offer, hey, okay, I think we can work together. I am honest. I'm like, listen, you are perhaps a little bit too quiet. You are quite shy in the way that you communicate yourself. This is going to be a difficult process for you to start showing yourself up, right? So before you start, just know that you need to, it doesn't mean that you need to change who you are. You might still be in your personal life more of a introvert, but if you want to get customers, you need to speak out and you need to be comfortable and you need to be able to do that. So it doesn't, I'm happy to take a customer like that because I actually enjoy and I love seeing someone and being like, oh, you had such a hard time with this and look at you now. That makes me proud to be able to help someone through that. But I like to make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into, because again, I don't like to sell. I don't like to sell for the sake of selling, right? Like if I know that someone can do this, right, I'm not going to sell you something that you're going to fail. I don't, to me, that's almost like I'm stealing your money, and that's not the way that I like to do things.
And also for yourself is like, if you feel that the person, for some reason, okay, doesn't matter the reason, but the person is not ready, or the person doesn't really want it, or whatever, is also like, okay, I can imagine that also your own, let's call it motivation, let's call it your own intention, is like, why I'm doing this, because I see that the person doesn't really want it, or the person, so also, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, it's my energy, right? Again, as I said, like one of my values is abundance. Like I want to have an abundant point of view in life, and if I got 10 customers, but one of them, just to make this little bit of extra money,
Yeah.
this one customer that I got right now is taking 80% of my energy because they are so difficult at it. It's just not worth it. Like, I prefer to have whatever amount of customers I have, and they all have, again, they don't all have to be the same, but within reason, right? I need people which are committed. Like, I want people which are committed, and I will help them stay committed, and I will help them overcome and go through every single step, and I will get them to the point that they have something they can sell and they're profiting from. But they need to be willing, they need to be eager to do so.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. Like, sometimes I do let's say more in the area of coaching with entrepreneurs, but people that are, for instance, building their online store. So is this new market on the online, and you can sometimes feel like sometimes some people are even sometimes very weak technically for to build an online store, and but they really want it. So they are going, to ask 100 people. They are going to, go everywhere because they really want it. And sometimes if you see also people that they almost like you have it all, like you know how this works, you have even technical knowledge, but it's like the last effort, like they do the minimum. And it's like, wow, it's so incredible because you can see really because let me put it this way, entrepreneurship is not an easy pie.
No.
So it's not an easy pie. So if you don't have that, I'm going. And sometimes you don't have anyone saying, hey, you need to go. Most part of the times you don't have anyone saying, hey, you need to go. So if you don't have that internally, oh, I always say the amount of people in this 25 years that I'm working, the amount of people that I saw starting and giving up is like, wow, I see, hey, they start and rah, and I go like, keep it cool, because this is not an easy pie. You need really to have certain things like resilience, like the ability to receive no's, and you need to gain that muscle.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, if you don't have that, or at least if you don't want to have that, it's going to be a hell of a ride, and you're going to
Yeah.
be maybe more frustrated than happy.
Yeah, but that's that's one of the things that I cannot teach the people that I mentor is that's part of it. Like, when it comes to, for example, when you're starting to sell, right? And selling itself is quite a skill.
Yeah,
Especially, like, I like to teach selling without trying to sell, right? I'm a big believer into when you have a really good offering and you really believe in it, just by sharing it, people want to be part of it, right? But you will get no's, right? Like, I think statistically, if you are closing 20% of your engagements, of your sales calls, you're doing well. So it means that you're getting 80% of the time you're getting a no.
yeah,
If you're doing, but that's why I think that having a mentor and someone that accompanies you and takes you by the hand in some sort of ways is so important, because if you're alone and you're getting 80% no, and no one is saying, don't worry, I'm the same, listen, I'm doing well, look at me, I'm successful, I'm doing well, I'm making a good living, like, life's good, and I'm getting 20%, maybe I'm getting 18% closing rate, maybe I'm getting 25, but I'm not getting 100. No one gets 100. Don't worry, keep going, keep making calls. How many calls are we going to make this week? Okay, how are the calls? Where are you struggling? Where are the objections? How are you overcoming the objections? Let's watch your call together. Let's see what areas we can improve. That level of working together with someone, you cannot understand. You know this, but most people do not understand what a difference that makes. Because if you're alone, you've been working on your offer. Let's assume that you were able to build a great offering alone. That's already hard because you have a lot of blind spots. We all do. But let's assume that you have a great offer and you love it, you believe in it. You go under the first sales call, you get a no. You get a second one, you get a no. You get a third one, you get a no. By the fifth one, your heart's broken because you think that no one believes in you, and it was so good, and why does no one wants to be part of it? And maybe this is not the thing for me. and I wasted all my time, and all the doubts and all these things start coming out, when the fact is, again, first of all, did you even know how to sell? Did you ever even try this? Did you ask someone that has experience? Did you ask someone that has been through this? Again, doing things alone is not the right thing to do. Like, you would never advise someone to buy all this mountaineering gear and go to a mountain climbing alone that has never done it before. They would die.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the right thing to do. You would say you do a course and you do this, and the first time you go in a group,
Yes.
when you all look after each other, and there is someone that has got, so to me is such a normal thing in most things we do in life. We don't do things alone.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about doing your own business, when becoming an entrepreneur, trying to do it alone, again, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying you are, it doesn't matter how, you have to pay to get someone to accompany you. Trust me,
it's worth it.
It will save you money in the long term.
Yes. No, and it's going to save you money, time, and I believe the most important thing, well-being.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing worse than you getting tired when you started. When you start, it's nothing worse. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it that you are going to feel exhausted when supposedly you are doing something that you
love.
want and you love, right? So I think it's really a thing, and I think sometimes people let's say dismiss this kind of things, like, oh yeah, I'm going to see, and but like, no, don't go what looks like the easy path, because it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. And with this, we are not going to say that it's a bad thing, right? But it's going to challenge you. It's going to challenge you so many levels. So just for us to finish this conversation today, what will be, let's say, for you, if someone is thinking at this moment, maybe entrepreneurship is for me, maybe having my own business is for me, what you will say to this person?
I would say start from what's your life about? Again, that's the number one step that I do with people. What are your values? What are your passions? What do you really enjoy? And what do you feel that is your purpose? And it's a really hard question to answer, and you might get to the point that it's like, I don't know how to answer some of this, but that already gives you an answer. The fact that I need help figuring these things out, right? And then ask yourself, do I want to, like, what do I value the most? And it goes back to the values. Working for a company, more or less, is going to give you a level of security, at least for a while, that being an entrepreneur, you just won't. So if you're someone that is hyper careful, fear in some sort of way is a big thing. Like, not maybe maybe again, I didn't come from money, so money is I want to be comfortable. But if you're someone that is really paralyzed by that fear, maybe it's not the right thing to do, because there are going to be moments in which money is going to not be what you expected. Once you build momentum, you get to that place. But again, figure those things at the beginning. And again, talk to someone. Again, many people, when I talk to people, the introduction call that I give is free. Many people offer a free call to have that initial conversation. So do that, right? Like, don't feel like, again, there's some people which use pressure tactics, but I don't. Like, to me, it's just a conversation. We share where it is.
I'm going to put your website, right? People can access your website, and then they can book that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put it in the comments so people can easily reach out that. So thank you.
Thank you
for this conversation. And I really wish that for the ones that are seeing this or hearing this podcast, that they can really have a moment to pause and saying, okay, what do I really want to do this? And if they want to do this, knowing that they don't need to go through everything like the first time. So they have someone that maybe already did it, someone that already went through some rocks on the way, like some troubles in the path that can come out and saying, hey, this is what you can maybe expect, so that we can also save some time. And the most important thing, I think, save some energy and health, right? So thank you so much for this conversation. And of course, we see each other soon. And I
Sure.
wish you a lot of success.
Yeah.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Lydia. I appreciate the opportunity. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.